What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Scoop. I'm Serge Kadali. Today, I'm going to be doing a 2022 NFL mock draft. So, as the season comes to a close, I think it's important to go with an overview of kind of the best talents on the board this season and kind of talk about really the teams that I kind of know now towards the end of the season are going to be picking at the front of the draft. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars as the first overall pick. And for me, I'd say it's between two, maybe three guys. And I think the top two, it's easy. It's the top two on the board right here. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux, the 1A, 1B of the class. These guys are the top dogs. And I think Jacksonville kind of definitely automatically with the first overall pick will be considering these two guys. And the third guy is probably, I'd say, Evan Neal, because I have seen a lot of mock drafts really going with the tackle for Jacksonville, which would definitely, it really help the team. With that being said, I think with kind of how this franchise is, I think you got to go for best player available. So I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeaux from Oregon. And I've seen a lot of people go with Hutchinson, which I don't blame. I think Hutchinson is an amazing, amazing player. I just like Thibodeaux a bit more. And the reason why is I think he has great speed off the edge. I think he's got great bend, has great hand placement, and kind of has that raw physical gifts that I feel like just barely outweigh Aiden Hutchinson. And I love Hutchinson. I think he'll kind of be, again, that another like impact day one player that'll be kind of 10 sack a season guy. But I think Thibodeaux can really be a kind of franchise type player that you build around. I know Jacksonville have had a few of those players in the past, but I think with a talent like Thibodeaux there, I think you can't pass that up. So now with the Lions, they're happy. They just get the other best player available, and that is Aiden Hutchinson. I think with the Lions, no matter who falls, they'll be happy. I think Hutchinson and Thibodeaux are both first overall talents. And the Lions kind of, they need that guy kind of who can be on that defense and be that alpha. The Lions defense, not very good. I think they're in the 30s in terms of scoring defense, and they haven't really gotten a great pass rush this season. And I think kind of getting an elite edge rusher like Hutchinson can really help. Obviously, the hometown kid, which also really kind of plays in the storylines and will make him a fan favorite from the get-go. And I think, again, like similar to the Jaguars, this is a team kind of with depleted of talent. They need kind of that game record option. I think that's what Hutchinson provides. And I can't really see with Thibodeaux off the board, I couldn't really see the Lions taking anyone else. So I've got to go Hutchinson for the Lions. And now it gets a bit interesting, though. The third pick, you have the Houston Texans, and they can go in a multitude of directions. I think with options, I think they could go with some elite defensive prospects like Kyle Hamilton, like Derek Stingley, but they could also go maybe with another good edge rusher like a George Karlaftis, or they could go offensive line. You have Evan Neal, Ickey Ekwonu. There's so many options really for the Texans at third overall. I'm going to go with Ickey Ekwonu though from NC State. And the reason why for this is I actually kind of like Evan Neal a bit more, although that is like it's kind of maybe again kind of been like a Kayvon Thibodeaux and Hutchinson like 1A, 1B. I like Ekwonu, though, to the Texans because of the fact that I think Ekwonu provides a bit more versatility on the line. I think, although he is listed as an offensive tackle here, he can play guard. Some people even think his best position is guard. And I think with the Texans kind of also possibly shopping Laramie Tunzel, kind of needing to get kind of a rebuild, a full-scale rebuild, which they already are starting. I think they need to kind of build that offensive line to start off and kind of build around whoever their quarterback. I think it will be Davis Mills, though, given how he's played down the stretch. And I think Ekwonu is one of those guys, again, can't really go wrong with. He's got great power at the point of attack. He's got good hand placement, good football IQ. I think he's got really what you want in an offensive lineman. And I think kind of third overall, I don't think it's a bad value. And I think the Texans could kind of really use a guy like Ekwonu who provides, again, such versatility across the offensive line. And now you go to the fourth pick, you have the New York Jets, my favorite team. Again, there's a lot to work with here, although I don't know how much this fits the Jets' needs. I mean, it does fit the Jets' needs, but personally, I've said to my friends in group chat, but I've said to many people that I would be really happy if the Jets would trade back with at least one of these picks, even with both of these picks. I think the best thing that a team like the Jets, again, another team that doesn't have an insane amount of talent can do is really kind of trade back, accumulate more picks. And I expect maybe the Jets, who at least with one of the picks, at least try to trade back. But in this mock draft, there are no options really to trade here. So with the third overall pick, with the fourth overall pick, I think you go for arguably the best safety prospect we've seen since, I don't know, as there's been a while, but Kyle Hamilton is an elite safety prospect. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, taking the safety at 4 is way too high and they don't provide enough value to take at 4th overall. And I understand that to a certain extent, but one, I think safety is such a big need for the Jets. You've seen kind of how atrocious that defense has been without Marcus May, who tore his Achilles, and he likely will not be back for next season. So with the Jets, they really need to have a big hole to fill at safety. And the second thing, the second reason why I love Kyle Hamilton to the Jets is because of the fact that I think Kyle Hamilton, he isn't just that normal safety. He isn't just that guy that will kind of be kind of that ball hawk or that guy playing in the box. He can play so many positions. He can play free safety, he can play strong safety, he can play weak side linebacker, he can play nickel cornerback, he can play the box, he can play again in space. He's a good tackler, he's good in coverage. He really has everything you need. Obviously, he's been injured for a certain portion of the year, but he's been very good when he's played. And I think you can see why a lot of teams love him. He's a very agile. He's big too. He's 6'4", I believe. And again, with the Jets, a team that says so much really to fix on the defensive side of the ball, I think really all they have set is the interior of the defensive line. I think you have to go for a kind of a game-changing defensive player like a Kyle Hamilton, who again can fix so much on this defensive side of the ball on his own. Obviously, we'll need a lot more than Kyle Hamilton, but he strikes as one of those players who in a few years could arguably be the best safety in the NFL. I know that could be an exaggeration. He could also be maybe a bust. Maybe he's not a good safety prospect. But personally, with the upside that he has and what I think he can be from the get-go, I think this is it's a good pick for the Jets. Now going on to the 5th pick, you have the other New York team, the New York Giants. And I know the Giants are a very bad team. They are a very bad team, but there's more to work with on the roster than what first appears to the eye. They do have a lot of positions actually sorted out, but they look a lot worse for one reason: offensive line. It is atrocious. I think I don't know if it's the worst in the NFL, but it's pretty darn close. And I think every position other than maybe tackle with maybe one tackle spot with Laramie, not Laramie, what am I saying? Andrew Thomas is kind of filled. They need so much more in that offensive line. And I think Evan Neal, again, he's listed as the 8th running prospect. I think he's a top 5 prospect. And with the Giants, again, just offensive line. That has to be key throughout the draft, throughout free agency. They got to fix that offensive line. I know quarterback could be a big need. I don't really like Daniel Jones, but I think before you go out shopping for a quarterback, you need an offensive line. I think Evan Neal kind of is I'm not sure no-brainer pick, but it's pretty close because I think he is easily the best offensive lineman available at this point at number 5. And the Giants are just, again, so bereft of talent of the offensive line that, again, fixing the tackle spots are a key point in any NFL organization. I think this makes sense for the Giants. Now you have the 6th pick, you have the Carolina Panthers. And with the Panthers, it's tough because I don't really like any of the quarterbacks. I mean, I don't dislike them, but I don't really love any of the quarterbacks in this class. And I'm not really opposed to some teams that maybe need a quarterback this year, kind of waiting for next year where there are much better options at quarterback. But with the Panthers, if they don't trade for a quarterback, I don't really see them being even close to competent at quarterback because they don't have anyone. Sam Darnold, he's just not a good quarterback. Cam Newton, he's washed. I'm sorry. I had to say it. He just doesn't, his arm talent isn't the same. It definitely should not be the answer for the Panthers next season. PJ Walker, he is not an NFL quarterback. And I think they need to go for a quarterback at this point. I know they also have to fill off the tackle, but with Pickett and Corral, I think it's got to be one of those guys. I like Matt Corral. I know he did get injured I think it was the Sugar Bowl, but I still think he is the quarterback number 1. His X-rays did come back negative, so it shouldn't affect his draft stock really too much. And I think he'll step in and kind of be that steadier for the Panthers. That guy could be a competent quarterback at the NFL level, and he'll be much better than all the options were for the Panthers last season or this season. And again, I think there are much better prospects on the board than Matt Corral. But quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. And if you don't have anyone that is really competent nowadays, your team is just set up to be horrible. So I think Matt Corral does really make sense for the Panthers here at number 6. And now you have the Jets on the board again. And I know we already went secondary, went safety. Cornerback is also a big need. I think the best one is still on the board, Derek Stingley. I think, again, The Jets really could, I think, should trade back here, but with Derek Stingley available on the board, I think this makes sense. He's kind of a great press man corner. He can also play really well in zone. Again, he's got those rangy instincts. He's a big corner. He's a relatively big corner. Obviously, the questions with him kind of surround around his injury history. Really wasn't able to stay healthy other than his freshman year, which is why a lot of teams maybe want to stay away from him. But I personally, I like some of the in-house options for the Jets, like Bryce Hall or Brandon Eccles. But I still feel like the Jets kind of need that alpha dog, that guy who can step in and be that number one corner option. I think that's what Derek Stingley provides. I think the only other really option I could see here is maybe offensive lineman, because I think the Jets still have a little bit to fix on the interior. But that being said, I think Derek Stingley makes sense considering he's the number one cornerback prospect, possibly the best we've seen in a few years. And the Jets do have a need at cornerback. So Jets go Stingley. Now another New York team again. You have the Giants, 4 picks in the first 10 picks, which is crazy. And again, like I said, the Giants need a lot of help on the offensive line. I'm going to go with Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa. And I think, again, the Giants need so much help. The interior is just bad. It's a bad offensive line and really is kind of shown why Saquon Barkley really hasn't been able to develop as well as people hoped. I think obviously maybe he has struggled a bit. Maybe that's also partly on him, but there's literally nothing to work with this Giants offensive line. And you get a guy like Evan Neal who's got great power at the point of attack and kind of can just he's a great run blocker. He can play right tackle, step in, be that guy. And then you get a Linderbaum, kind of generational prospect in terms of the center position, considering, again, we don't see that many centers really go top 10, but I think with Linderbaum, interior offensive line is one of the most underrated positions in the draft, and you really need to build it up to have a good team, a team that can contend. And with what the Giants really want to be, a good running team, a team that can kind of allow their quarterback to stand in the pocket for more than 2 seconds. I think Linderbaum is kind of, again, a pick that can really stabilize this offensive line a bit more and make it kind of a top 20 offensive line, which is really kind of what the Giants should be asking for, being realistic. But I think Neal, Linderbaum, they can both go in and be immediate contributors. And I think this is be a draft that I feel like I'd be happy with if I was a Giants fan. Now you have the 9th pick. You have the Washington football team. This is a tough one because quarterback is a need. But again, like I said, I don't really like a lot of the quarterbacks in this draft. I feel like if you can hang on to a quarterback for one more year, I feel like you should do it. And although, again, Heineke is not a good quarterback, I don't really like Kaiir Elam or Fitzpatrick's going to be coming off a year-long injury. I still feel like they can kind of survive for one more year, which I don't feel like the Panthers could. So I'm gonna go with an offensive lineman pick. I think they need to really shore up that interior. I'm going with Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. I believe Brandon Sheriff is going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but I believe he is going to be leaving at the end of the year. And even if Washington's offensive line has been very, very poor this season, and I think Kenyon Green is a great zone blocker, they probably want to provide a bit more room to run for Antonio Gibson because they're promising young running back. And also, again, kind of protect whoever the signal caller is next season, whether it be Heineke, Fitzpatrick, Allen, someone not in house. But I think they need to protect the offensive line before they go quarterback. And I think Kenyon Green kind of makes sense here. Again, maybe a little bit of a reach, but I don't think it's necessarily bad value for 9th overall. Now you have the 10th pick. You have the Atlanta Falcons. I think they need defensive help. Other than really Grady Jarrett and AJ Terrell, they do not have much on the defensive side of the ball. I think they could really go edge here. I'm going to go with David Ojabo from Michigan. And I actually do like George Karlaftis, the other option for Purdue, a bit better. But I'm going to go with Ojabo for the reason that I think Ojabo really I think he has a much higher ceiling than Karlaftis. He could potentially be, if he reaches his full potential, a top 10, maybe even a top 5 edge rusher in the league if he really kind of gets to what he needs, what he could be. And also, I'd really like Ojabo because of the fact that really he fits the Falcon system a bit better. I think he fits kind of the the P's 3-4 system a bit better than Karlaftis, who really kind of reminds me of an every down 4-3 defensive end with a big motor. And Ojabo is kind of a bit quicker. He's got like a bit more, I wouldn't say a bit more moves. So yeah, he does have a few more moves. He does have a few stuff to refine here, but for the Falcons, who again need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball, they can get a guy like Ojabo, who I feel like can be a contributor day one, but also can kind of be a down the road, a really, really good option on this defensive side of the ball. Now you have the 11th pick. You have the Denver Broncos. And again, quarterback is really an option here. But I think the reason why I am tempted to actually not take a quarterback for the Denver Broncos is because of the fact that really they have been in kind of trade rumors this season. And I think with the Broncos really being in trade rumors, they could potentially be going for a guy that could be on the market like I don't know if Aaron Rodgers will be, but you have Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, a couple of those guys I could easily really see going to the Denver Broncos. They could also, again, they could go free agency. I know James Winston will be there. And who knows, maybe even they can kind of wait out another year with Locke and Bridgewater. As terrible as that sounds to Denver Broncos fans, I don't really like them going for kind of a low ceiling type of guy that really not even just someone that I really haven't seen, and I'm not 100% confident. So I think also one of their biggest needs is tackle. And I think Charles Cross, he is listed as the 13th best prospect, but in my opinion, he's a top 10 prospect. And Denver really need, again, another team that really needs to shore up that offensive line. I've been going offensive line a lot of these picks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know, obviously, not the sexiest pick, but with a good offensive line, you can be an elite team. I don't think any team can really be an elite team, at least, or sustained elite team without a good offensive line. I think Denver, they don't have a terrible offensive line, but they do have a glaring weakness at tackle. I think kind of Charles Cross really shores that up. Now you have the 12th pick. You have the Minnesota Vikings. I think they need cornerback. They just are completely bereft of talent there. They really need to kind of shore up that cornerback room. And I think it's between two guys at cornerback. It's between Andrew Booth and Sauce Gardner. I'm going to go with Booth, though. I think he's a kind of like a good Zimmer cornerback. He can play press man coverage. He can play in zone. I don't know if Zimmer will be there, though. But that's besides the point. I love Andrew Booth. I think he really is. He hasn't been healthy the whole season, but really when he's been with Clemson, he's been kind of that great number one cornerback option. Again, great in press. He's got good athletic traits. He can, again, play man very, very well. And again, I'm just talking about the Vikings. They just don't have that many in-house options. I know they have Patrick Peterson, but he's aging, and I don't know how long his contract even is. I think he might be out of contract this season. Obviously the Jeff Gladney experiment went terribly. I think they have, who else really do the Vikings have? They don't have that many cornerback options. And I think with Booth being available at 12, I think this is just a take me pick. And I think the Vikings got to go with Booth here. Now you have the 13th pick. You have the Cleveland Browns. I think it's got to be wide receiver. I know, obviously, you could go quarterback, but I don't see really going for what at best I feel like could be a minor upgrade over Baker Mayfield in the long run, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I don't really like this quarterback class. So I'd say they need to go receiver. Considering receiver, they really haven't had good enough options, especially after Odell Beckham Jr. was cut. All I have is really Jarvis Landry, who's been declining, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. They need better options. They need a true number one receiver. And why not stay in the state of Ohio and go Chris Olave? And Olave, in my opinion, he's the best route runner in this class. He's got solid hands. He's really kind of been that maybe Smith and Jigba, but he's been one of those main options for CJ Stroud at Ohio State. And I think he could be that receiver this year that accepts it and becomes that immediate number one receiver, immediate top 20, top 15 receiver. I really like Olave. And I think I could see him being, again, immediately Baker Mayfield's favorite target on the offensive side of the ball. Now you have the 14th pick in the Eagles, and I think they'll love this pick. They'll go George Karlaftis from Purdue. They do have a need at edge rusher. Brandon Graham towards Achilles. Derek Barnett, I don't really think he is the answer there in Philadelphia. They need to go edge rusher, get younger there. And like I said, Karlaftis, he's that 4-3 kind of, he's got a great motor, great power. He'll be there every down. I think he's kind of that guy that Philadelphia need. in the long run, kind of just, again, sure up the defense, which, again, I feel like is a bit aging. They can get it a bit, maybe a lot younger. And I think Karlaftis is kind of a starting point for there. I think, again, top 10 talent. Some could argue even he should go in the top 5. There are a lot of teams that maybe potentially go for him. Maybe even the Jets at 4 could take him because they do have a need at edge. But I think kind of the way this draft board has gone, a lot of teams have very, very different needs, especially in the offensive line side of the ball. So he's kind of fell a bit here, but the Eagles will not be complaining at all. Again, they are creating a great talent in Karlaftis, someone who, again, be that immediate day one impact player alongside Fletcher Cox. And I really, again, I think he just kind of is a great value pick for Philadelphia. So I think this is kind of, yeah, a good pick for Philadelphia. Now you have the 15th pick. You have the New Orleans Saints, and they are going to go wide receiver Jameson Williams from Alabama. With the Michael Thomas situation, we don't know if he's going to play in a Saints uniform again. And you cannot kind of trot out that receiver group that the Saints trotted out in 2021. I know they had injuries, but it's still not even close to good enough. They did not have a wide receiver number 1. They didn't have any really receiving threat, whether it was wide receiver or tight end. And I think they just have to go there. I think Jameson Williams, he is a top 20 talent. And obviously, receiver is such an important position nowadays. And I know quarterback, again, could be tempting. But if I was the Saints, I'd resign James Winston. I think he was doing solid as a signal caller before he did go down with a torn ACL. So why not get him some more weapons? I think that offensive line is good when healthy, and they have an elite running back in Alvin Kamara. So they need, why not get another good number 1 receiver? Maybe even Michael Thomas comes back and they can form a good 1-2 tandem. Again, may not happen, but regardless, receiver is a need for the New Orleans Saints, and I think Jameson Williams kind of fills that in the short-term game. Now you have the 16th pick. You have the Baltimore Ravens. This is an interesting pick here. I think they could go Nakobe Dean because I know they did pick Patrick Queen a couple of years ago, but I still think they do have a need at interior linebacker. That being said, I think they should go cornerback here, and they will go Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati. And I know this is kind of it's a tough pick to make. And the reason why is that the Baltimore actually do, when healthy, have a very good secondary. They've got Marlon Humphrey. They've got Marcus Peters. I believe they still have Jimmy Smith, although he is aging. They've got options. But coming off a torn ACL, I don't know how much you trust Marcus Peters, and you do definitely want to make sure another crazy secondary injury situation doesn't happen to the Ravens again. And Ahmad Gardner really comes in there, and he kind of is a perfect fit, really, for the Ravens. He's a great press man coverage corner. And he's done it against Alabama now. He's done it against Jameson Williams. No longer is there the excuse that, oh, he hasn't played any good competition. He played good competition and he won. He's a good tackler as well. Again, he kind of shuts off his half of the field. And I think he can step in there and be, again, a great day 1 cornerback for whoever needs one. I think Baltimore's a team, especially with the injuries that they had this season, could really draft a cornerback. And I know a lot of teams really kind of would want a Sauce Gardner on their team. And I think Baltimore, again, they always seem to get those kind of steals of the draft that also perfectly fit their needs. So I think Sauce Gardner is a great pick for the Ravens. Now you have the Steelers, their arch rivals, at 17. And it is basically 100% sure now that Big Ben will retire. And unlike other teams, the Steelers really need a quarterback. They need to go for a quarterback. And I don't know if really they're going to trade for one. So I'm going to go with the hometown kid, Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh do need other needs, though. They need offensive line. They need cornerback as well. They could use a kind of an interior defensive lineman to kind of slow down that terrible run defense that they've had this season. But I think quarterback, again, it's a quarterback's league. You need a competent quarterback to succeed in the NFL. And with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins being the only options in the quarterback room, that just isn't acceptable. Pittsburgh needs someone better than that. And I think Kenny Pickett kind of is, again, not a great option, but he's a stabilizing option. Someone who can just step in there and be that kind of okay quarterback that the Steelers really need to kind of stay afloat throughout these next few seasons. And maybe he could be better. Maybe he could be a great quarterback. You never know. But based on what I've seen, he doesn't seem, I mean, hey, yeah, he did shatter Dan Marino's passing record. But in terms of the traits of an NFL quarterback, I'm not 100% sure if Kenny Pickett will be a great, good, I mean, I'm sure he'll be a solid NFL quarterback. I don't think he'll be like a top 10 NFL quarterback. But I think with the Steelers, when you need a quarterback and you have 17, one of the top quarterback prospects are available, I think you do have to pull the trigger on that. So the Steelers will take Kenny Pickett at 17. Now you have the Raiders at 18. I think you could go Jordan Davis to kind of really, again, sure up that run defense for the Raiders. They do have good edge rushers and Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue, and they could really sure up that interior of the defensive line. But I think they need receiver. I know they've got Hunter Renfrew, who really kind of has shown that he's more than just like kind of a underneath slot receiver threat. He's a number 2, number 3 guy. He really stepped in. It's kind of owned that number 1 receiver role, and he's played relatively well in it. But the Raiders still need more receiving threat. And I think Garrett Wilson from Ohio State provides that. He can play in the slot. He can play out wide. He's kind of, I believe he's he's 6 foot, 192 pounds. He can be kind of that third down weapon. He again play from the slot, play out wide. You can throw kind of one-on-one options to him. And again, he's been one of those, again, crazy receivers at the Ohio State receiving factory. They just produce so many they produced so many good ones this season. And again, I think the Raiders are a team that really need a receiver, kind of a number 1 receiver that can kind of show up and kind of be a good complement to Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and kind of help Derek Carr more than really that he's been getting. And I think that's what Garrett Wilson provides and kind of makes the Raiders actually a solid receiving core. Now you have the 19th pick. You have the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think this is where Nakobe Dean goes. My opinion, my linebacker 1, obviously, the draft network doesn't agree. They have Devin Lloyd. I love Nakobe Dean here. I think the Eagles, again, the Eagles need to get younger on the defensive side of the ball. They don't really have any great linebackers. I know the Eagles don't have a history really of drafting these off-ball linebackers, but I think that'll change with Nakobe Dean when Harry Rosen realizes that they do need to get a linebacker. And I think Nakobe Dean kind of provides, again, that middle linebacker toughness to the Eagles. He'll really sure up that run defense again. And you've already got kind of your motor 4-3 guy with the George Karlaftis who can slow down the passing game. Now you get your linebacker who can really kind of, again, dictate what's happening in the middle of the field in the pass and the run. That's what Nakobe Dean does. And I think, again, he's a great fit for the Philadelphia Eagles at 19. Now, the 20th pick, you have the Los Angeles Chargers, and I think this is the easiest pick of the draft for me. Jordan Davis has to be picked here. The Chargers have had one of the worst run defenses in the National Football League this season, and they need to fix that. And Jordan Davis basically is the perfect fit. Obviously, obviously, the question's over. His pass rush are valid. He doesn't really provide much of a pass rush, but in terms of run game, you don't really need to put too many guys in the box with this guy. He can just absolutely shut down a run game by himself. If you run anywhere near him, he is basically guaranteed to swallow him up. He's basically, I'd say he's kind of basically like Vita Vea. Although, again, he doesn't provide too much of a pass rush. So I love Jordan Davis here to the Chargers. Kind of, again, shores up probably the biggest Achilles heel of that team this season. So Jordan Davis goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. Eagles back on the clock. Now I think they got to address cornerback. I think they've got to address cornerback here. The options here, Roger McCreary, Kaiir Elam, Trent McDuffie. Tough here. I'm going to go with Roger McCreary from Auburn. Originally, I did like Kaiir Elam a bit more, but given that Roger McCreary has posted the best PFF pass coverage grade this season, I think, again, he's been one of the best cornerbacks this season. He's improved every year. He's good in press. He can play zone as well. He's been a great defensive option really for Auburn this season. And the Eagles, again, don't really have anyone opposite a big play Slay, and he is also getting up there in age. The Eagles just need to get a bit younger on the defensive side of the ball, and they've addressed really every facet of the defense. You got the secondary, you got the linebacking core, and you got the defensive line. So really a great draft for the Eagles and a good use of their 3 draft picks, although it maybe could have gone receiver, but I like kind of what they're doing with the defense in this draft. Now you have the Miami Dolphins at 22, and I think if you ask any Dolphins fan, it's clear what the biggest need on this team is. It's offensive line. Their offensive line is horrific. They have the Liam Eichenberg pick has been a failure. Jesse Davis is just not a great offensive lineman. I think their only solid, I'd say, offensive lineman is really Robert Hunt, but they need to get better at every other position, especially tackle. I think Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State really provides that. Obviously, his draft stock is going to go down a bit because of the Michigan game where he just got absolutely manhandled by Aiden Hutchinson. But overall, I think he is a solid offensive tackle. And again, the Dolphins need that kind of guy who will be there and kind of be that plug and play option. That guy can kind of at least provide a semblance of protection for Tua Tagovailoa, who really has needed it the past few years. He just doesn't have enough time to throw, which is why the Dolphins have really relied on that short to intermediate game where Tua can get the ball out fast. And I think Petit-Frere, he's not an elite offensive tackle. He's not a Evan Neal, Ickey Ekwonu. Hell, he's not really even a Charles Cross, but he's a solid enough offensive lineman, who can kind of go in and be that, just a solid offensive lineman, kind of provide a semblance of protection for Tua at left or right tackle. So Petit-Frere to the Miami Dolphins. Now you have the Patriots on the board at 23. Receiver. They could definitely go receiver here. I would not be surprised at all. They could also go cornerback. I think there are good options on the board here as well. I am going, given that I would have taken McCreary if I was a Patriot, if he was available for the Patriots at 23. But given that he is not available, I'm going to go receiver. I'm going to go Drake London from USC. He did have a big injury though, I believe. I think it was like a leg injury, which obviously is not a good thing. But he's kind of one of those big body. I think he's a big body receiver, 6'5", 210 pounds. He is a big body receiver. He's actually an underrated route runner again, which is a bit surprising considering his big frame. And again, the Patriots, they're not terrible at the receiving core. I mean, obviously it doesn't look great, but Mac Jones does have a good connection with his receivers like Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne. I'm not sure really about Aguilar, but he's had a solid enough connection with his receivers, but I still think they do need that kind of big body number one receiver. And I think that's what Drake London really provides. And I think the Patriots kind of can almost have now a new dimension of their offense with the Drake London. So Drake London to the New England Patriots. Now you have the Cardinals at 24. I think they need a cornerback. So I'm going to go with Kaiir Elam from Florida. One of those just athletes. He's very big. He's very strong. He can play press man coverage, but also he's a very fast cornerback. And the Cardinals don't have terrible options at cornerback. They have Byron Murphy, who I really like. Marco Wilson has also been a solid young cornerback, but I still think they can improve a bit there. I think that's what Elam provides there. So Kaiir Elam to the Arizona Cardinals. Bills at 25. I would say interior offensive line because they really need offensive lineman help. Again, Bills fans would tell you their offensive line has been very, very inconsistent this season. That being said, when you have a prospect like DeMarvin Leal, who's still on the board at 25, I think you got to pull the trigger on him. He is an amazing, amazing defensive lineman. He can play 3 technique. He can play 5 technique. You can kind of make them that aggressive 3 technique, 4-3, 4-3 defensive tackle. He can also play 3-4 outside linebacker. And the Bills aren't terrible on the defensive line. They've got options. They got Ed Oliver. They got Rousseau, who's been solid. I guess Epinesa, but they could definitely improve on that side of the ball. And again, it can't hurt to add another piece. I would say, again, interior offensive line, which is a big, big need, but I'm not sure how much Darian Kennard or Zion Johnson kind of makes his team better as much as DeMarvin Leal, who arguably is a top 15, who knows, maybe even top 10 prospect. Now you have the Bengals at 26. I think they have to go interior offensive lineman. I'm going to go Kennard here. I think, obviously, the Bengals, they're a great, great team, but it's clear their Achilles heel is pass protection. Joe Burrow, I think he's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, I believe 51 times. So now I know a lot of people criticize the Bengals for the Chase over Sewell pick, and it really worked out. So great. You've got all your weapons. You've got a not terrible defense. Now go all in on the offensive line. Kind of build a wall around Joe Burrow, and this team could possibly be unstoppable. Kennard, again, not an elite pass protector, but I think he kind of fills a need for Cincinnati and kind of isn't terrible value there. So Kennard to the Bengals. Cowboys at 27. I think with the Dallas Cowboys, I think they've got to go edge rusher here. And the reason why they have to go edge rusher is really because of the fact that I think with Dallas, they kind of They have good offensive weapons. They've got good offensive weapons, and their defense has stars. They have Michael Parsons. They have Trayvon Diggs, but their edge, even with Demarcus Lawrence coming back and Randy Gregory, those guys are both again a bit older options. And I think they could get a bit younger at some of those positions. And I really like what Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State really has to offer for the Dallas Cowboys. He can, again, I think he won't be an immediate starter, but I could see him being kind of that rotation guy on the defensive side of the ball. They could also maybe go for a cornerback here, but I do like Trent McDuffie, to be fair. I do like Trent McDuffie, but I think they do have Trayvon Diggs. They drafted Kelvin Joseph last season. They've got linebackers, obviously, and I think interior, I like what they have with Osa Digizua. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. So I think they could really go kind of edge here. I think it makes the most sense for the Cowboys. So I'm going to go with Jermaine Johnson. Now you're the Bucks. I think they need a cornerback. I think cornerback is a paramount need. Sneaky underrated pick could be receiver, but I think I would go cornerback for them. And I think that's where Trent McDuffie comes in. He really, again, you could say cornerback, you could say defensive back because he also plays nickel, but he is just as good as a boundary cornerback. He really, I think Washington really weren't that good this season, but McDuffie, they really didn't throw to his side of the field very, very often. And again, the Bucks, they're a bit shaky at the secondary. Obviously, they did have injuries, but they're a bit shaky there. They've got Sherman is an aging option. I do like Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting. They are good young options, but none of those I'd say are number one caliber cornerbacks. I'd say it's the one weakness. So again, a Super Bowl caliber team. So they're kind of like nitpicking a bit here. I think McDuffie is a solid option there. Chiefs at 29. I'm going to go Treylon Burks from Arkansas. And I'm not sure how much it really fits kind of the Chiefs scheme, but I go with Burks because of the fact really that I think, again, he's kind of that person who could really put the Chiefs like in a new gear of offense. He is a big bodied receiver. Again, kind of like a Drake London. I'm not sure as big body. I believe he's 6'3", but again, he's kind of that third down weapon for the Chiefs that really, I guess Kelsey is over the middle, but kind of gives them another option, especially outside the numbers that really Tyreek Hill or Mecole Hardman or Demarcus Robinson don't provide as much as I believe Treylon Burks could. Had a great game, one of the best games of the season against Alabama, which is always promising that he shows up in a big game. And again, the Chiefs, they could go linebacker here. I would not be upset at all. Devin Lloyd is a great prospect, but that being said, I just think I think receiver just gives them the best chance to kind of maximize the Super Bowl window that they have. That's why I like Treylon Burks here. Now, the 30th pick, you have the Detroit Lions receiver. I think they need a receiver, given, again, other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, they don't have enough there at all. I'm going to go with Jahan Dotson from Penn State. And I know people are just say, oh, he's just like a gadget, like fast receiver. But he has great hands, actually. He has very underrated hands. He's got good route running ability. Again, I'm not sure how big he is. He is 5'11", so he's not the biggest guy. He's not necessarily insanely small, but he's not the biggest guy. But he's got good hands, good route running. And again, honestly, anyone you can add to this Lions receiving core is just the better. The more the better, because they need receiving options for probably Jared Goff, who will be the quarterback next season. Amon-Ra St. Brown is really kind of broken out as a rookie, but they need someone other than that. So that's where Jahan Dotson comes in, and he will be the 30th pick for the Lions. Now you have 31. You have the Tennessee Titans. I think this is a no-brainer pick. Devin Lloyd from Utah. Again, arguably a top 20 prospect here. I think he's linebacker number 2 in this class. And I think Tennessee are kind of a team that really, Mike Vrabel, he was a linebacker. He's a defensive coach. And Tennessee don't have enough talent at the linebacker position, especially on the interior. Devin Lloyd, again, you can make a case that him and Nakobe Dean are like neck and neck. You can make a case that he is the number 1 linebacker in this class. And if the Titans have him, if he's on the board for the Titans at 31, I think it just makes sense as a pick. Now you have the final pick in the draft. You have the Green Bay Packers. They could go offensive line here. They have had a lot of injuries, and Bakhtiari, again, especially him, he hasn't been in the team all season. I'm gonna go edge rusher. I'm gonna go Travon Walker from Georgia to conclude the mock draft. And again, my reason again, it's another team. It's like the Bucks. Kind of, you gotta pick really. Was the option there? They could go receiver, but again, I feel like the top six have really gone off the board. And with the Green Bay Packers, my not necessarily issue is that with they are likely, I believe, to cut one of their edge rushers because I think Preston Smith is likely to be cut. So Darius Smith, again, he's another aging option. Rashawn Gary, jury's still out on him. So they could really kind of improve with another edge rushing option like a Travon Walker, who is a solid run defender. Again, he's an edge rusher, so he has to be a solid pass rusher. And I think it's just to kind of improve this defense. And again, similar to like teams like the Bucks and the Chiefs, maximize this Super Bowl window. So Trayvon Walker to the Green Bay Packers to conclude this mock draft. So if you enjoyed, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. If you don't like this video, don't worry. I'm not the only host on this channel. We have 3 other hosts, Kian, Dylan, and Charlie, who all post videos like this, mock drafts. They also post NFL daily type of content. I will be on that too. We post, I'd say almost daily. We post a lot of types of videos. We're posting more podcasts now, so make sure to check those videos out. We post like clips almost every day. And yep, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. And that will do.